The Washington County Quorum Court Personnel Committee will come to order. And I have asked J.P. Robert Dennis to lead us in the prayer and the pledge.
Dear Lord, we come to you this day and ask many blessings. I would ask blessings on for our country on D-Day. Pray that we would just remember what the Americans did on D-Day and that we will not forget them. And pray that you would just be with those who lost their lives, or be with their families. And pray that you bless their families and their descendants, and pray that you would bless this country and help us to remember and stand strong and do the right things as we go forward in life. And we thank you for their example, and pray that you would just continue to bless us. Pray that you would bless the Washington County. Pray that you bless the Washington County employees, keep them safe at their jobs, and just bless them. These things we ask and pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time we will adopt it. Are there any changes to be made on the agenda?
I make the motion, we adopt them.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposed? Thank you. And our chairman is absent this evening. So if there's not any chairman's report in your packet, we'll look forward to having a report from Lisa Eckey at our next meeting. And agenda item number 5, an ordinance increasing the pay of an employee in the Buildings and Grounds budget and appropriating the total amount of $6,804.42 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund to various line items in the Buildings and Ground budget for 2022. Is there any discussion on the ordinance?
We have somebody talk about it. What is it? What is it?
Yes, do we have, yes. You want to push the button?
What this is we have an employee that we hired as a maintenance technician, but his sole job was to learn under our current HVAC technician that we have, who has a bunch of institutional knowledge. That gentleman is set to retire probably next year. So we sent this young man to school to learn HVAC to get his EPA licensing. What that does is it saves the county from having to contract in people who can handle EPA qualified refrigerants. So we sent this young man to school. He now has completed all of his training through NWTI. He's passed his EPA handling license, class 1, 2, 3, and so now he's worth significantly more. And so it's just trying to retain him because he's had well over a year of institutional knowledge working on our particular systems.
Any further questions? Any comment from the public? I would entertain a motion.
Does this need to go to finance?
Yeah, I would assume that it does.
Motion that we send it to budget finance. Second.
Is it with or without a recommend pass? Goes to finance and budget with a recommend pass. All in favor? Are there any opposed? And there are none. Thank you all. Item number 6, an ordinance adopting and establishing the detention and communication personnel salary administration program within detention and sheriff's budgets for 2022 and changing the pay range structure for detention and communication personnel, item 20-0-060. Is there anyone here from the sheriff's department that would like to talk about this one?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
This is an effort on our part on two different fronts pertaining to recruitment and retention. On the communication side, I don't know how familiar you are with communication, but these are what I came to work at is in 1979 as a dispatcher. And they are the lifeblood of any law enforcement agency, and that's what they are for us. What we have found over the last few years is the inability to retain. And then probably in the last couple of recruitments just fizzled. So what we're trying to do is match up with our peers, the pool that we're hiring from, the same talent. So we have modeled after Fayetteville's dispatch center. For the most part, to try and achieve parity. Some of the things that we've run into just historically, oftentimes our dispatch centers are filled with young females, and then at some point during the time, they will get married and begin families, and it becomes very difficult with our hours, to be honest with you, to do both. And so we're trying to circle the wagons and figure out different mechanisms to recruit and retain, and we know that pay is one of those. So that's on communications. It is a direct parallel with our hiring pool, Fayetteville, Springdale. Detention is another animal in that, and I want to brag and tell the court how much we appreciate their confidence in us, their faith in us, and to use that premium pay to help us through these times. But, you know, that's quickly running out. In fact, we'll have some employees that will top out on that not long after the first of the year. So I know that it was the sentiment of the court, or at least several members, that we wanted to try and figure out a permanent solution to compensate our detention employees, who oftentimes are our unsung heroes that nobody thinks about until something bad happens. And to remind you guys, our detention center is just over 40 down. And we're starting to see an uptick in applications, which is good. We're also starting to see an uptick in those applications where they are qualified to come to work. So hopefully we're seeing a light at the end of the tunnel as far as qualified applicants showing an interest again in coming to work. Hopefully when the fog is lifted and people get tired of being at home and doing whatever it is they're doing, we want to have a viable option for them at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. And I think with this pay metrics, it will put us not just at parity, but at the forefront of detention center employees, to get them hired, to get them to stay, and give them opportunities for growth within our organization. So that, in a nutshell, is what we're trying to accomplish.
Any questions? Any discussion?
I move that we adopt this ordinance and move it on to the Finance Committee with the due pass recommendation.
We have a motion to pass with a do pass. Do we, and we have a second? Thank you. Any further discussion from the, is there any discussion from the public? Comment?
Thank you.
Thank you. With no further discussion, all in favor? Any opposed? And there are none. Thank y'all. Item number 7, an ordinance changing the grade of the DEM Executive Administrator, EOC Manager position in the DEM budget and appropriating the total amount of $1,366.69 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the DEM budget for 2022. Is there anybody from DEM?
No, DEM's not here tonight, but this was just a basic regrade. This position hadn't been graded or hadn't been looked at in about 6 years. And so Director Luther asked that it be looked at and was regraded, and the grading went up. And so all we're doing is looking to bump that grading up to what it was under the Johansson Group, and that's it.
We have a motion to pass to finance and budget, and a second. Is this with the do pass recommendation? With the do pass recommendation. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Thank you. So item number 7 passed with the do pass. Agenda item number 8, an ordinance changing the title of Corporal and Adult Detention Officer Duty First Class to ADO DFC Corporal Flex slot in the Sheriff's Office for 2022. Item 22-0-062. Is there someone here to speak?
Hi again. I have a few of these. I'll stay close. This is really more of a, I don't know if you want to call it housekeeping, or it just makes it easier for our HR folks when people within our organization are between those slots and they achieve certain, whether it's time, training, or whatever criteria, that we can move them on in to those slots without continually coming back and having to ask for movement. So I'm going to say housekeeping is what this would fall under, Mr. Chairman.
It's a housekeeping with no money.
Well, with the turnback money, it's no money, but it's, it's, because if you go from ADO to corporal, it's significant, but there are 3 steps in between.
I see.
So in the budget for next year, what do you think that number would be?
Ooh, Kenny, do we have that figured out for 23?
No, it'll be the same budgetary.
They need to hear you.
Kenny Yates. Budgetary, we'll budget for those exact same slots, and they're already budgeted at a flex position. So what it does is when you have someone who is hired as an ADO, then once they've completed their required training, they would go to DFC. The way it is now, in order to make that move, we have to change the slot number. The slot numbers don't go with that position. We have to do a slot change and do all the paperwork and come to the court for the change. This would allow us to make these changes more fluid without having to do all the paperwork. So all of these positions that are in the budget, they're already budgeted at the highest amount. And that's where the turnback money comes in. When they do the salary sweep every quarter, That's the reason so much money's coming back, because they're budgeted at the higher position, because we don't know how many throughout the year are going to get there.
Okay.
Thank you. We have a motion to pass. And a second. Do we have some more discussion? Any public comments? I'm entertaining we have a motion to pass in a second. All in favor? Any opposed? And we have none opposed. Thank you again. Let's see, ordinance. Yeah, you might as well sit there.
Patty offered to come up and save me on that last one, and I should have taken her up on that.
And we're at now agenda item number 9, an ordinance creating a legal advisor position in the sheriff's budget for 2022, item 22-0-063. Did you have something
You
to
ready?
say?
Well, yeah, I do. I think this will take some explanation. So throughout the law enforcement world, agencies our size, especially sheriff's offices, generally have a member of their command staff that is legal counsel. Now, the reason for that, I think that you can probably look back historically at the sheriff's office and how much time is dedicated to our lawsuits just within our county that Brian Lester and that have to oversee and take care of. We also feed off of the AAC attorneys. What we really need with the uptick in lawsuits, the oversight to kind of look at those for us, we are inundated with FOI requests like never before over the last couple of years, and that's not going to slow down. That's just a sign of the times. It's part of transparency. We don't mind, but it's just we need help reviewing those to make sure we release the correct information. It wasn't all that long ago we were involved in a lawsuit where we thought we were releasing the correct information and we didn't. But at any rate, that's another issue. At the sheriff's office, it's paramount that we have the correct policies, that they are fluid, that they continue to keep up with the times and changing methodologies throughout the nation. That's another thing that a on-staff attorney could help us with. Disciplinary issues, make sure that we're doing everything right when it comes to discipline. Promotional issues. It's just time. And what we would like to do is to take one of our historically vacant slots out of our communications center and one of our unfilled 44 slots within detention and use that money to get us kick-started and get this person hired. I've already talked to Brian and some others. They say the pay is not enough, but I think it's enough to get us started, to find and identify the correct person within the legal field that also has an interest in law enforcement. So I think that we are past time to do this. I think it's a much-needed position, and I hope you'll support this effort.
I'd like to say we need to take note that we recognize right up front that this may not be enough money, but this is what we're going to try for.
I'm sorry?
Deal that amount.
Our range is, Kenny, do you have the range in front of you? Seems like it was 70 to... And there was a pregnant pause. What's that? You got it? It's up on the screen.
It's on the
Yeah,
screen.
so the entry level is 70.
70.
2.
to 95.
72 to 95 is the range. I apologize for not having that at my fingertips.
It's just gonna have to be somebody that just, it's their heart's desire to give something back to the county, to come in at that level, at that range.
Will that need to go to budget and finance?
I would say this
Yes.
needs to go to.
I'd make a motion, we send it to budget and finance to be looked at, pass it on.
Recommend pass.
Yes.
Motion and a second, that this go to budget and finance with a recommend pass.
Yep.
I think maybe we got some more public comment here. We got some on the committee. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. I just have a question for Sheriff Helder. What other agencies in Arkansas or what other counties have this position?
Yeah, Pulaski has a staff. Now, whether they're in their command staff or not, or I don't know the exact structuring of it, but they've got multiple attorneys assigned to the sheriff's office. I think Garland may have, I'm not sure, on staff. And then as you get outside of our state, in Louisiana, Texas, many are structured in. And not generally, they are legal advisors, but they're also part of the command staff, so they can avail themselves to law enforcement training as well to become experts in our field, which is what we hope to build through this process.
Any further comment or question with the committee? Yes, we have J.P. Madison.
I was just going to say that when we say things like that you have to really be committed to the county to work for $72,000, our public defenders, our prosecutors, our assistant county attorney make less than that. So when we say this is not enough money, I think we need to think about what we're paying people that currently work for us.
It's,
So, I mean, I'm not arguing with the money.
No.
I'm just saying that when we sit there and say that $72,000 is not enough, let's keep in mind that that's what our last county attorney, that's more than he ever made.
that's a point well taken, and it just goes right along with what I just said.
Well,
I appreciate you.
I think we should be
making-
mindful of what our public defenders and our prosecutors do for what they're paid. So,
Any further comments from the public?
Excuse me, you did say from the public.
Yes.
Okay. It's hard to hear. I don't know if people aren't speaking into their microphones tonight or they're kind of bent away from them. Thank you. Okay, my name is Beth Koger. I live in Fayetteville. I'm just concerned about the amount of money for this because we pay our county attorney $106,605. That's already in our budget. We have a deputy county attorney at $62,100, although I understand that position is vacant right now. And under the Washington County Code, Section 2-174, the duties of the county attorney are set out. It includes, which I won't read all of them, but to draft all ordinances, resolutions, contracts, leases, to write opinions on subjects of a legal nature. And also, Sheriff Helder mentioned this, but under our agreement with the Arkansas Association of Counties, the AAC Risk Management Services provides legal services, and they're defending the ivermectin lawsuit right now against the sheriff and others that's pending. And they also cover damages to some extent. The county gets, and to be in the Arkansas Association of Counties, we pay 1% of the general revenues received by the county from the county aid fund in the state treasury during the preceding year. Now, I don't have a number on that for what that was this last year, but my point is, I'm just not sure this is a good way to spend our taxpayer dollars. You're supposed to be good stewards of our taxpayer dollars. Have we looked into this, and why why can't the county attorney do this work? And also, most counties can't even afford a county attorney. They use the prosecuting attorney as their county. And so I'm against this because I think it's not a good use of our money. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any further comments? We've had good points brought up. I would take a privilege to make a little comment about this. With lawsuits and lawsuits pending, it might very well be that the sheriff's department needs someone on hand to advise before actions are taken, somebody to advise beforehand. I'm just saying, it might be. Now, let's see, did we have a motion and a second on this one?
I have one more question.
One more comment, yes, ma'am.
Or a question, actually.
Or a question.
Okay, thank you. So, my question is, as I was reading through this, I think I shared some of the same thoughts as that have been expressed here. Is there any reason that the assistant county attorney could not assist in that, since we do get some assistance from the Association of Counties? Like, have we explored that, or is this the only solution to have the legal advisor?
Was that for me? Mm-hmm. Okay. We absolutely wore the assistant attorney out that was here. There isn't one now. Hadn't been for a little bit. I wish I could tell you an exact number on the FOI requests that have come in, but that's a full-time job for somebody. So I don't really know how to answer the question other than that the assistant attorney was basically assigned to us. Remember that the sheriff's office has over half of the employees that the county has, but we also run a jail, and then we're the only people that can take somebody's liberty away from them. So we are always under scrutiny and always potential lawsuits on every interaction we have. It is just my belief that as we grow, we're not going backwards, and I think it's the responsible thing to do to get this done. We also, our investigative division is continually writing search warrants and different things that need oversight, and we do feed off of the prosecuting attorney's office, and we do feed off of our county attorney, and we do feed off of Janann specifically with AAC, but I promise you the workload is such that we are beyond needing one for ourselves. But I also, they'll be doing other things. They will be part of my command staff or the future sheriff's command staff to help us progress and stay on legal footing. And I'm sure that we'll still avail ourselves to the county attorney and work hand in hand. But I have had conversation with our county attorney, and I met no opposition to this and thought it was a good idea. So anyway, I hope that answered your question.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry for not asking all of my questions at once. So the candidate for this ideally would need to be, of course, a licensed attorney, but also, because they will be part of your command staff, they'll need to have a background in law enforcement as well?
They don't have to have a background, but I think in an ideal world, we would want them trained if they have an interest in law enforcement, first of all. I think that's going to be paramount in our selection. It would be my desire that they received all the training, because we want this attorney to become an expert in law enforcement matters, whether it's detention, patrol, CID, anything dealing with law enforcement. So those would be some of the prerequisites that we would have for this person. If they don't currently have that training, then we would want them to receive that training.
And so for the other counties and other states that have done this, have you spoken with them? Like, have they had any difficulties in identifying that type of candidate?
I haven't had that type of conversation. I've only had the conversations pertaining to the benefit of having them on staff. And I think that in the larger organizations, it has really caused sheriffs and their organizations not to have too many missteps that were well-intentioned, but they were not on legal footing. So One in particular person that I'm thinking of is with the Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office, and he was actually the first one for that agency to come into that role, and he was not law enforcement, but became certified and went through all the training and became a well-known expert in his field. And then he took another job, and I mean, they were very quick to come in behind him with another attorney on staff that they could cross-train. So it's really about having an expert on staff that is focused on what your needs are. Not that Brian or whoever they bring in wouldn't have that focus, but their focus wouldn't be divided in so many areas. We're really at the point that we have the most potential for legal filings and those kind of outcomes. So we need oversight, and I just think it's the responsible thing to do to move in this direction.
Would that be all? Okay. J.P. Dennis?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So would Washington County public defenders be able to apply for this job if they so wished?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
You bet.
Any further question? And we have none.
Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any opposed? There's none opposed. This will be passed on to Budget and Finance with a do pass recommendation. Let's go to agenda item number 10, an ordinance changing the pay of the one position in the sheriff's budget for 2022 and appropriating $2,164.27 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the sheriff's budget for 2022, item 22-0-064.
I seem to be monopolizing the time tonight. I apologize for all
No,
these
it's
coming forward at one
no.
time. This is basically a compression issue that occurred when the court did a really great thing and gave the raises at the first of the year. But what it did was we had new lead dispatchers come in, and they passed somebody that had been in a supervisory role for a year and a half or 2 years. So what this will do is put them back on par with the two. It was an unintended consequence is what happened, so.
Yes, J.P. Dennis.
I move that we pass 10.1-10.2 onto the finance as a do pass recommendation to the Finance Committee.
Do we have a second? Second. And we have a second. Okay, and any further discussion from the committee? Do we have any discussion from the citizens? No public comment? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And there are none.
Thank you.
This passes with a do pass recommendation to the Budget and Finance. Thank you. Let's see. Number 11, an ordinance changing the title of Deputy First Class to Deputy First Class Corporal Flex Slot in the Sheriff's budget for 2022, item 20-0-065.
This is, I'll let Major Yates discuss this again if you'd like. This is the same thing we discussed on the detention side, only this is out of the sheriff's budget, which is a different budget, so it's the same process. If you need further, I'll have Kenny come up.
Do we need further discussion on this?
I'll make a motion that we pass 22-0-065 onto the Budget and Finance Committee as a do pass recommendation.
Do we have a second? Second. Do we have any discussion from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there is none.
Thank you. I'm
Thank
proud to
you.
announce that that will be my final request personnel.
That's your final one? Is that your final offer? Okay. Agenda item number 12, an ordinance increasing the pay of the chief deputy treasurer and appropriating $4,095.15 from the unappropriated reserves in the general fund to the treasurer's budget for 2022. Item 22-0-66. Bobby, come on down.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Move that slide to the comparison. Right there, thank you. I'd like to move my chief deputy from the minimum of grade 20 to the mid-range of grade 20. That would take her from $22.09 an hour to $24.54. In my opinion, she's vastly underpaid in comparison to her peers at the courthouse. As you can see, the slide up there right now, I have all the chief deputies from the courthouse elected officials. Also, Class 7, Benton and Pulaski County are well above her salary. Also, Class 6, Craighead and Faulkner are also well above Washington County's pay. Plus, she has 15 years' experience with the county. This increase will come from the general fund, but the effect will be minimal, as I will reimburse general for our office expenses by using the commission fund.
I make a motion, we pass it on to the finance and budget for due pass resort.
We have a motion with a due pass and a second. Any further questions for Mr. Hill? Do we have any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And there is none. This
Thank
is
you.
passed with a due pass to the finance and budget. Agenda item number 13, an ordinance changing the title of building maintenance technician in the buildings and grounds budget to facilities HVAC technician for 2022, item 22-0-067. Anyone from the building and Mr. Dwight Gonzalez?
Yes, sir. This is what we discussed earlier regarding our individual who just graduated from HVAC school. It's just changing his actual position from a maintenance technician position that's already a line item and switching it over into an HVAC technician dedicated position. Just title change.
Any,
I move we pass 22-0-0-67 as a due pass recommendation. Does it need to go to the finance committee, or does it skip?
If it's just a title change, I wouldn't think so.
looks like we pass it to budget and finance, is that correct? Oh, we just had to pass this one?
Yeah, his pay increase will go to budget and finance, but
Oh, this one's just a title change. County attorney says he's got a bobblehead going. Okay, we're gonna take it to budget and finance. We have a motion to pass to budget and finance. Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Do we have any discussion from the public? All in favor? Any opposed? And there are none. This ordinance passes to budget and finance. Agenda item number 14, an ordinance increasing the pay of an employee in the buildings and grounds budget and appropriating the total amount of $8,607.41 from unappropriated reserves in the general fund, 1,000 various line items in the buildings and grounds budget for 2022, item 22-0-068. Yes, sir.
What this is this for a master electrician who obtained his building operator's credential. He attained the first one, and then he obtained Class 2 after that, making him a little bit more valuable. It's also just another way to retain employees that have a great institutional knowledge. We actually tried to raise him before. We discussed his actual position before, but because he was left off of one particular thing, the monies weren't budgeted. So now that he's actually passed the second course, we're just going in for all of it that he's, worth.
Any questions?
Do I see that right, it going from 14 to 25?
I'd have to 14 to 25. Wait,
Best I can tell. And it says it retros back, does that mean it retro back to where? The
retro back to whenever he actually completed the course.
5/16 to 22? It says $20.68 an hour, and then it goes back to 25. I'm just trying to figure that out.
Well, I had it, on his particular position, I wanted it retro back to when he actually completed the course.
What happened, there was a group of employees that were in line for this pay increase, and he was one of them, and then some way it got overlooked.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't get the raise when he was supposed to.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
No, that was what I was gonna ask, because Mr. Gonzalez just mentioned that the monies weren't budgeted because something was missed, and I was gonna ask for an explanation of that.
Okay.
So you said that he was in line for it, but it was overlooked?
It was overlooked. There was a group of them that were receiving raises, and somehow his paperwork fell through the cracks. They had the paperwork somewhere.
He was fully discussed. It was just on one paper he wasn't, so we weren't able to budget the money for him.
We'd actually approved what he was supposed to get, and somehow it just didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions? Any public comment? If there is none, we had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? It's pass with a do pass to budget and finance. Are we good so far? Okay. Agenda item number 15, public comment. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to make a comment? And I see none. And I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Let's do it legal. We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. There are none opposed. Thank you.